Kevin and Roman, they got the game. Customer success is their claim to fame. On the podcast, they light the spark, elevating your skills, creating a mark.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Customer Success Playbook Podcast. I'm Roman Trebon, and with me always is my co-host, Kevin Metzger. Do us a huge favor and give our show a rating, subscribe, and like it so that we can continue to grow our audience. Kevin, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm having a great week. Excited about moving my daughter into college at the end of the week. So excited about that.
Yeah,
about
it's
yourself?
awesome. School's back in session. You know, we're getting back into that busy routine of the fall, and what a great way to start the week here. We have an amazing guest, and I can't wait to delve into this topic.
We do. We have the pleasure of speaking with Irit Eizips, a world-renowned expert in customer success strategies and the mastermind behind Keep Your Customers, a strategy accelerator for business owners and high-level executives who wish to maximize their customer lifetime value. Irit had been consistently recognized as a top influencer since 2013. Her accolades include being named Top Customer Success Strategist of 2024, induction into the CX Hall of Fame in 2023, and recognition among the top 25 most innovative leaders in CX in 2022. Irit shares industry insights through various media channels, frequently speaks at major conferences, and serves as a judge for the prestigious Customer Success Awards. Irit, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I didn't know I was with like younglings, how to have young kids. I'm already an empty nester. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm quickly on the way to the empty nest. My oldest she's been in college for a couple of years, but she's moving on campus for the first time this year. And then my second's looking at colleges for next year. And then my youngest is a freshman in high school.
Yeah, I just want to go back to that youngster part. Can we replay that again? I'd like to hear that. That was awesome.
Bunch of younglings. I'm like, what is it with the kids in the school? What are we talking about here?
I love the opening. I like to be called the Irit, an influencer back in 2013. You were an influencer before that was even a term.
I know. You know what? No joke. I had people call out. I was like, oh, you have 900 followers and connections on LinkedIn? And that was like back in 2010, right? And I remember I used to work at a company called Host Analytics, and one of the sales guys there one day approached me. He says, there's no way you know this many people. I was like, check me. And then he pulls out this one name, and apparently was a family friends of his. And she was literally one of my clients at that time. And he was like, whoa, you actually know this woman? I think now, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, and obviously it grew a lot more since then, I have about, I don't know, well over 10,000 followers or connections on my LinkedIn. And it just, I think, morphed into something else. And so when you have that much influence and connection in the industry, it's kind of easy to be an influencer because every post gets a lot of views.
Thank you for coming and joining us today. And we're excited about this episode of the Customer Success Playbook. We'll discuss what small businesses and scale-up companies need to do to keep their clients and grow revenues from their existing customer base. Irit has a unique system that she's developed over the years called the customer method for high-scale businesses. Irit, we're super excited to get into the topic. Can we start with kind of what led you to the decision to developing the Keep Your Customer model and what kind of results you're seeing from the implementation?
Yeah, let's talk about the why. First of all, I kind of was hijacked it into figuring this out. It definitely wasn't intentional. I kind of got, into the business world and business strategy very early in my career. I think when I started right off of college, I was like in the, like a strategy consulting firm in the country where I hail from. And I've done a lot of business analysis for companies to figure out why they're not performing well. And I got the bug, this is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. Like, why doesn't it work? And so I've been doing that since I was in my young 20s. And this is what I become very passionate about. Sometimes your first job just influences you a lot in your career and your mindset. When I got reeled into customer success, and it was literally reeled into customer success, very quickly I figured, wow, this is back in 2013. I was thinking, wow, this is going to explode. Sometimes you just know you're in the right time and the right place. And so I left, I used to work at a company called Gainside that pretty much started this whole shenanigan, this whole customer success bonanza in the business industry. And a year into it, I was thinking, you know what? I can influence this trajectory a lot more if I actually stepped out and had my own consulting firm. And when I started working with businesses, my first client was Intact, my third client was Zendesk. I very much quickly realized there's so many hours in the day, so much bandwidth that you can impart to work specifically with companies that don't want to buy necessarily said solution. And so within, I think, a year and a half after I started the company, I started my channel, CSM Practice, my YouTube channel, and I started interviewing customer success executives and business executives to say, what do you do to retain more customers? What do you do to expand the wallet share? What do you do to create basically an awesome company? And I think 10 years now into this whole journey, you gotta sit down and think, well, what did I learn? What did I learn over this past 10 years? Can I actually create a journey for executives that want to have a better business, a better experience running a business, like methodology that they can follow that almost kind of guarantees the right path, first of all, and second of all, the right results that they're seeking.
So for small companies that are at a point where they brought on a bunch of customers and now they're in growth mode, and I've heard scale, you hear scale a lot, but that's hard. It's not a light switch, right? You just can't flip the scale switch and it happens. So how do companies start to do this? Like when you hit a point where your resources are at a certain point, you're bringing in more customers, your onboarding process maybe hasn't changed, how you manage clients maybe hasn't changed. It can seem overwhelming. So where do you start when you start talking about scaling an organization?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, most companies need to know where they are in their life cycle. So if you have less than 50 customers, you're basically just still figuring it out, most likely. Some exceptions to that rule, but mostly between 50 to 75 clients, you're still figuring things out. And sometimes the number one mistake that I see companies make when they're like less than 3 million or a million, really just starting out, is that they try to build a scale up.
Mhm.
You need to focus on, are your clients mostly retained easily, growing easily, and advocating for you easily? If you're not there, I'm not sure you need to scale right at this moment. And the reason I say that is like, I think it was like 6 months ago, I was invited to this industry event. And this poor guy, man, he had his company for 2 years. He had a few customers. Most of them were not, like a bulk of the customer share wasn't even paying because it was a freemium to a premium and nobody was going through the premium process. And he was talking about how he's going to get them without a sales cycle and they'll just opt into it. And he was doing all the worst mistakes at the beginning, hands on, super manual, as many conversations as possible so that you can even understand what's going on. So to your question, what if you already done that? You're getting sales pretty easily. You're already getting some traction. Some of the renewals are going really well. So I think the first step is really to understand where you're at. So there's a couple of things that I want to impare with you. Is it okay if I share my screen? I know this is a podcast, so if anybody's kind of like curious to see what I'm going to draw, they can go into your YouTube channel, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some video clips.
So first and foremost, I think businesses should be aware of what a great business looks like and where they typically need to put their emphasis on. At the very basic level, they should know that your customers should be successful with your solution. To get to that higher traction, you really need to look at two things: your customer experience and your customer outcomes. Meaning you need to be very good at delivering value and a great experience or a relationship with your customer base. Easier said than done, but at a high level, if you're a CEO, your sales are going well, your next step is to really assure that post-sales, you get great experience and awesome value, and that it's easy to get both. This is how you maximize net retention rate. Now, you might think, why is net retention rate super, super important? I'll explain it in a minute as well. But that's like at a very basic level, you have to nail both. I've seen some companies where the experience is great. They're very good at, creating that allure almost to their brand. Like, it's so great. You want to be part of it. It's like the cool kid on the block to say that you have that product or you have that software. But then you come in and it's so hard to get the value, and vice versa. You're getting value, but it's so difficult to work with these software companies. So it could be one of those two things or both when you're trying to get to a better business. So the first step that you need to, once you understood the formula, the first thing that you need to do is assess your base. Do you mind if I step into this a little bit more to just explain what I mean by this?
Let's go.
Sure.
Awesome. All right. So we talked about two perspectives, right? One is the value, or what we call CO, customer outcomes. And the other one is the customer experience. And if you think about where are your customers, if you look at, I'm assuming most of you that are listening have, for example, a B2B organization. Most B2B software companies or B2B businesses, they either, they did the sale, they did the onboarding, and then they don't even know who the connection in that account is. How many of us have had like hundreds of accounts, hundreds of customers, and some of them we don't even know if we needed to reach out to them, who it is. So we have no relationship. That's at the extreme. And then on the other extreme, we have an amazing relationship with them and an amazing experience that they have with us. Like, these are the guys that advocates for us. We know their kids. They're on our board. Everything that we hope that the experience will be like with a customer, it goes into fruition here. On the other hand, for value, obviously here, they're not even using the software or the solution. And it's a pretty dangerous place. But here at the top, listen, most companies don't even know what this is look like. They don't really have an exercise of what best in class looks like. So usually when I go through this exercise with clients, we're just saying, okay, what's your best in class doing here? But ideally, you kind of want to say, what would the ideal customer be using here? What's your flagship look like? And once you know all of that, this is why this is so important. If they're anywhere here in the spectrum, meaning they're not really using it, or they're using it but not really getting any significant value, or they don't even perceive your company to have any value, and the relationship is weak, they're likely going to churn, okay? On the other hand, if they are using it, they're getting some value, but you don't know them, they don't know you, they don't have any loyalty or affinity to your brand, the experience is just meh, they've just been using it for a while, whatever the case might be, but they know that they can get value, they're going to churn and go to somebody else. Just spoke to someone that he just churned because they were trying to implement for 3-4 months without success, but they know that they should automate that process they were trying to. So they're just going to look for other competitors, or worse even, build it in themselves. And so, yeah, who sits here? Those that, they have very little value, but you know what? They know you from high school. They really like you. Your brand is super cool in the industry. So even if they're not getting a lot of value, they're going to tell you, hey, listen, this is not working out. Let's work on it. Let's see if we can get some more value, because the relationship is so awesome. Sometimes how either relationship or perceived value calls for you getting some value out of that customer, or getting them to renew for at least one more year. When we build customer success strategies and put that in place and make our business better, we want to push everybody to be in this top right quadrant where we push them to become best in class and we have an amazing relationship and experience that we deliver.
Yeah. So what does that look like? I mean, for a business, I realize it's going to be somewhat different for each business, but what does it look like when you're hitting on all those cylinders and you're delivering value?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first step is just to assess your base. You have to take that first step and say, where are you right now? Because I can tell you, if most of your customers are here, you're probably kind of like what VCs would classify as a dead pool. It would be very hard to get any VC, any kind of funding when most of your customers churn and you're not really getting a whole lot out of it. So that's one, assess where you are. If you're actually here, meaning some of them you don't even know, and some of them you actually have a really good time with, but you're not getting them to value, you're probably starting to have some control over the risk, but you're not yet there. You need to, at the very least, step number one is to control the churn. So I'm going to put it in a separate model because this kind of like illustrates what you need to do as a business owner. So if you're, and this is kind of like set the proper goals, know the next step. So if you're at a dead pool, gosh, probably your solution is not great. And you need to go back to the drawing board, think about your value proposition, think about your product, your avatar, who's your ideal customer profile, maybe fix your product really. So customer success won't really help in this regard. Here you're looking at a very severe churn rate. If you stepped it up and at least you have some good relationship, so meaning if you don't start getting control over your risk, you're probably going to head here. So what you want to do as a CEO is start establishing some control over your risk. Why? Because once you master risk mitigation strategies, and we typically do that with just relationship because the next steps are way harder to do. So you're starting to understand how to talk about value, how to talk about adoption, and you're starting to get some wins with those where you have really good relationship and you somehow got them, even though you're not really great at it, you somehow started to get some win. And we call these question marks because you still have a lot to do to get to a really healthy state. And here, to get to the next level, you actually need to up-level your outcomes. So you're already starting to get better at talking about value to some customers, but you still don't know how to do it at scale. Rising stars is kind of looks like this. So this is why the analysis is so important, is really to understand where you are. You're starting to be able to communicate value and bring more and more customers to getting value a lot more consistently. And so this is where you start putting things like change management and stuff like that into place. You really up-level the performance or really increase the consistency in getting more and more of your customers to value. And then, of course, where you want to be is to be a scale-up. And this, if you're here, you're actually getting way more companies to scale up and get the value. You're just not doing it in a super scalable way. Here, you might be able to do it more consistently. You're doing it with way more customers. Probably what you did here is you increased your ability to create relationship at the lower level. If you think about, like, if this is your customer base, you start with a high touch, then the medium touch, and then the long tail. This is where you start to systemize your growth. And goals obviously is to be here. I would say this is almost like aspirational, but if you do get there and you are able to do it consistently, what you find is that your business becomes a legacy, a cash cow like Apple, or a unicorn like some other companies that we know. Although unicorn, I would say this has to do a lot with market conditions, being in the right place at the right time. But I can almost guarantee you could become a cash cow business, a business that everybody really loves working for, because guess what? We're winning for the most part.
I mean, I love this. This is the best whiteboarding session we've ever had on the show by far. This is amazing. And when you started off, you started with Deadpool. You started, I thought you were going to do all movie and TV shows. I was ready for risky business in the middle there. I didn't know where we were going with that. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's great. So Kevin mentioned the keep your customers model. Is that part of what you showed us? How does that model? What is that model? I'd love to understand it better and have our audience understand it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's kind of like how I drew it.
Mhm.
Every ladder, every rung in the ladder, we work on something else appropriate to where you are. I think one of the biggest mistakes that CEOs do is they start working on scale. Whereas, I mean, get your shit together. Your foundation is not even good. We know what happens when you build a house. If the foundations are not strong, what's the point in building the walls and let alone the roof? We know it's going to fall. So, first of all, get your foundation right. The reason I start with controlling your risk it is because it kind of feels like, do you know the story about this Swedish little boy, that was like the tides were rising, the entire city was about to flood, and then they put that little finger so that, it buys enough time for everybody to run away and kind of like save the day. This is what we're doing here. We just learn how to put the finger so we don't feel like there's a flood of risk and churn requests and discount requests coming our way. We learn how to control the conversation. We learn how to diffuse it, first of all, so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And like I said, we're not talking about companies that have a 50% churn, 60% churn. If you're in that, you're probably still, even though you might have been in business for a really long time, you really need to take care of your product. You might have neglected it for a while. It might not be working for, maybe the market changed significantly and you just need to adjust it. Whatever it is, it's a product issue. But if you're getting to, say, around 80% churn, 85% gross retention rate, 15, 20% churn, control your risk first. When you get to 5, 7% per year, let's talk. Let's have a conversation about up-leveling the outcome, because at that point, your team is not freaking out. They're ready to actually up-level the conversation. They have bandwidth and they're very curious about what else they can do, who else they can make winners.
Yeah. So it sounds like one of the biggest issues these leaders at these companies have, they're getting ahead of themselves. Now, keep me honest here. Like they're so in the scale that they're not doing, like you said, the assessment of the business, where they are and understanding. What other mistakes do you see leaders making at these organizations?
You know what it is? They should probably do this exercise every 2 years.
Mm.
The market
Yeah.
changes, their clients change, because I'll draw one more thing and then that's it, I think, for me. But, when you think about founders and CEOs, you can't just grow from your existing product and existing customer base. So a lot of them, the way they think about how they become better in business and growing the company and really creating a growth strategy, they have like an initial idea, they prove it, and then they start seeing growth, and all of a sudden it tapers out. Maybe here they already kind of gotten to here or here, somewhere around that. At this point, not here, right? At this point, they should already think about the next thing. So now I'm introducing yet another layer of complexity. It could be another industry that I decide to work in, or buy a new product or a new solution or another company. And now I get exposed to either a new client base or I have something to upsell. And I don't go back to reassess where I am and what do I need to strengthen. And if they don't do that, sometimes from here, they go back to here, unfortunately. So first of all, like I said, understanding the formula is really important, because this should be assessed on a regular basis. And then understanding where this is so that you can assess your next step. And sometimes, when we talk about control risk, where is that risk? Is the risk mostly in relationship or in outcome? We need to go back to the basis, really understand what's going on, and then take the right measures to come up with the right strategy. So the biggest mistake that I see that CEOs make is that they hire really brilliant people, very good staff that does the customer success management. They forget what their true role is. It's to lead the company and strategize. They kind of expect the team to strategize on their behalf. Your role as a CEO, just because you have a large team and very talented team, is always to set up the vision. Always. And you should always have a very high level overview of what's going on. Where do you need to put your finger as a CEO to say, this is what we need to tackle right now? And I find that a lot of CEOs, as their company grows, or they might have been in business for 16 years, last 3 years, no growth, and they sort of start blaming the team or get actually disenamorated with their own business. That's pretty unfortunate. Instead, what I recommend, pinpoint and then create standards for excellence and push the team forward.
So, it's really got to go back, reassess how your customer value proposition is hitting the market, hitting your customer base, and taking a look at, hey, are we delivering on this? Has it changed? If it's changed, how do we address that? Make sure that we've adjusted our internal processes and procedures to make sure that we're delivering to the changed value proposition.
Yeah. Really understand where your weaknesses are and then tackle that. Where are you in the grand scheme of things? Tackle that. Don't try to scale something that's not really working very well. Sometimes I think they get in their own way. I think they think that, well, the reason it doesn't work is because we can't scale this thing. So we're only able to cater to the high touch customer base. Well, does your high touch customer base really doing very, very well? Or do you get a hit and miss there too? What are you scaling here? Something that works or something that doesn't? Sometimes I have CEOs that just are not really great at painting the picture of what excellent looks like. They're not really great at telling the team what should they be focused on right now. And the team doesn't necessarily have the tools to analyze the business well or really understand what does the CEO perceives as great wins. And that's where you really need to take extreme ownership of your own business and get to work.
Yeah. So you have a 90-day churn challenge, right? A 90-day churn challenge it sounds interesting. Tell us about that. What is that? I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, I think that sometimes businesses feel like they have a lot of churn. And so if they have anywhere between 20 to 5% churn, I think this program is for them. I think that so what I did is basically established about 12 steps that allows them to really, first of all, get better awareness to what's going on in their business and where the churn really is. The reason I built that as the first step is because we want to prioritize. It's just 90 days. So we want to prioritize getting real clarity around which accounts are we going to tackle first instead of just, getting overwhelmed with thousands of accounts. Then I take them through a journey of, just doing some very simple tactical stuff that they can do to re-engage with dead accounts. And sometimes that alone pushes them in that quadrant towards the right. So we have a better relationship. At least now we can surface the risk up early and do something about that. And the whole idea is that if you establish both, now you get a much better handle on churn within merely 90 days. If you do the work, you do every one of these exercises, you're going to at least reduce churn by 1%, if not more. Because what happens is that a lot of the playbooks that we do to reduce churn risk actually also amplifies the opportunity for upsell. And so even if it's going to do great things for any business, it's just to give them sort of like a nibble, something that's like all my quick wins, all put in one program. And then if they go through that, they're going to get a lot of aha moments. They're going to get better skill set, awesome templates, awesome tactics. Their business is going to be better after 90 days. And then if they wanted to keep on with the journey to learn how to go through the entire ladder, of course, we can talk about doing the full year with me. But the reason we start with that is because if they're kind of like on that ladder, we want them to feel like they can have control over churn and they can go from defense to offense, because no team wins the Super Bowl with just defense, but certainly can't win it without it. But that's the first place you start. You start with a good defense.
Yeah. I love that. Not only will you reduce churn, guarantee, but it's probably even more. But then there's opportunities to grow as well. Obviously, you want to plug the hole and stop that. But I'm sure as you're getting into it and doing the assessment and doing the work with the teams, you're like, oh, there's clients we can actually grow. There's growth opportunities here. And that's even more beneficial to the organization. Super interesting. I like that.
Yeah, listen, once you open the conversation, you don't know what the conversation is going to be about.
Yeah.
And if you have the right talk track, everything can happen. So what we find is that a lot of times just opening up the conversation increases upsell by 10%.
And you do find that you've got a lot of businesses who are not opening the conversation.
Yes, Kevin, I do.
Already locked it. Yes. Already locked it. Yes.
Oh, it's shocking, right?
It seems it is shocking though.
Yeah, you know what? It's just, I think the ones that come to me, I've been in business for 10 years. Obviously, no one's calling me if they got 125% net retention rate that they can, like, if tomorrow they double their customers, they don't come to me. The companies that I get to work with really need my help. So the ones that I speak to, for the most part, don't really have that. Even if they have somebody that reaches out, they don't do it well. And so the reason I infused some reach out in that program is because what I found is over the years, when I was a younger consultant and I had all these awesome playbooks, there wasn't, like, once we defined all of them, everything was documented, it went into a library, and then nobody used it. This program is so action oriented, it'll blow their minds. Because I want them to get out of their comfort zone and from out of thinking into doing. The doing is what causes the change, the transformation. So I would say if anybody here is listening and think, oh, this sounds like a great program that I can learn a lot from. If you want to say, oh, that sounds like a great program that would kick my butt and would make me go to work, then yeah, that's the program.
It's awesome. Roman, you want to get into the hard-hitting questions?
All right. You buckled up? You ready for this?
I thought these were the hard questions.
No, these are the easy questions for you. I mean, again, like you said, companies, you made me think of one more movie reference. It's like, I loved your said, like, companies don't call me when NRR is at 125%. You get the ones that are a lot lower. It's like in Pulp Fiction, they call him the wolf. When you call them, you need someone, you bring in the read. That's when you bring them in. You need action, which is, I love it. All right, Irit, if you could travel anywhere that you've never been, where would you go?
Besides Fiji, Thailand, anywhere in Asia, that's my goal. And Mars.
And you are going to Fiji. I know this is a little behind the scenes, a little behind the curtain. You are going to Fiji next week. So yeah, that's for our audience. That's an amazing trip. Early bird or night owl?
Definitely night out. Yeah, night owl all day. Yes. Although I would say that now that I hit my, later years, early bird is creeping in. I'm not saying 6 a.m. yet, but the 7 a.m. is pretty consistent. It used to be 8 or 9 a.m. Ask me in 10 years, I might be early bird all the way, but it doesn't go. Yeah, it seems like things are changing.
It's shifting now. Yeah. Well, you called up the youngster earlier, so I don't want to ruin that because I get up at like 4:30, so I don't know what that means.
I used to go to sleep at 1 a.m. every day and then wake up at 8 a.m. every single day. And now I find it really hard to concentrate after 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So,
I bet.
there's that.
What's one of the more interesting books you've read recently?
I want to say it would be the one behind me by Wayne McCulloch, The 7 Pillars of Customer Success. Great read. What I love about it, everybody's like a little bit of a different way of thinker. And I think I'm the how person, the how and the what. And this guy does a really phenomenal job with it. Lots of how-tos, very well established framework that I really resonated. I read a lot of customer success books. This one resonated with me the most, and that's why it's right here, right behind me.
That's good. So if I'm taking a long flight to Fiji, I want to download a movie or TV show. You have any recommendations for me? What should I download for a long trip like that?
Oh my gosh. I love limited series. What's the name of that limited series with that girl that plays chess?
Oh, Queen's Gambit.
Limited TV show ever. Love that one.
I heard they're coming out with a second Queen's Gambit. I don't know. I keep me honest
really?
here. We may need to fact check that after the show, but I thought I heard that. But I'm with you. I'm all on unlimited series. Give me like 6 episodes. And nothing's worse than when I hear someone say, you should watch this show. And there's like 9 seasons. I'm like, absolutely not. I can't get into a show 9 seasons deep. Give me 6 episodes and I'm good to go.
Exactly. And also limited series. I think they should be disallowed to have another sequel. We all know the second one always ruins the first one. Like, look at Matrix 2, 3, whatever. Like, what's that about? Well, you're ahead.
Yeah. All right, Kev, any other last questions here?
Or you just want to, where can everybody find you?
csmpractice.com. I also have a YouTube channel, CSM Practice. And of course, you're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn, where we post a weekly poll every Monday related to business strategy. So mainly related to the post-sale and customer success. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend checking it out.
Well, thank you so much for joining the show. It's a great conversation. Definitely check out the 90-day challenge. Check out the Keep Your Customers model. Lots of links. We'll put the links in the show description so you can easily find Irit and all the work she's doing. And our audience, as always, thanks for listening. Again, give us a like, give us a subscribe. That helps grow our audience and help get great guests. Check us out on LinkedIn. You can find me at Roman Trebon, find Kevin at Kevin Metzger. Check out the Customer Success Playbook LinkedIn page. All right. And thanks for listening. And as always,
keep on playing.
Strategies and tactics that you can use, from challenges to triumphs, they cover it all, helping you navigate when you hit a wall. So tune in now and join the quest. Kevin and Roman put you to the test, empowering your journey in customer success. With insights and wisdom, you'll be the best.